Hello, welcome everyone to Live with Tracy and Rob. This week we have a special guest with us, Mike Abeyta from Realty Connection. Hi, Mike, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And so we're here this week to talk about spring cleaning your recruiting list. So I know that's something, springtime. I know here in Georgia, we're getting some nicer temperatures, which is always lovely. We start breaking out the flip-flops, doing our spring cleaning projects around the house. So Rob and I were talking about it and thought, hey, you know what would be a really great topic? Let's talk about spring cleaning our recruiting efforts. So, yeah, what do you think, Rob?
I think it's a great time always to be looking at your business, quarterly. It's a good idea to kind of have a look at your website, have a look at your systems that are in place and things like that. But obviously, if you're focused on recruiting for your office, that list can be something that just kind of gets put off and put in the background, and you never really get around to scrubbing it and going through it and things like that. And, as a company that does a lot of calls and things like that, we're always looking at lists and seeing what people give us and things like that. And we had somebody give us a list with a bunch of people that had passed away, and we thought, well, how are we ever going to recruit people that aren't really member of the board anymore? So I know that's a terrible thing, but it does happen where people, I think, they have something where they've been putting it together, they don't review it, they don't ever go through it, they just think, okay, it's there, it's something we have, and they don't really get into it. And you can start targeting the wrong people. You can start targeting people that are in the wrong demographic. They're not even meant for your office. You could be people that aren't even in the right city, that type of thing. People have moved on, people into different careers, and meanwhile you're making calls, you're sending emails, you're spending all this effort to get out to them, but they might not even be the right kind of target. So that's what I think we should talk about today. Maybe Mike can touch on that briefly, is getting into focusing on the right kind of targets right from the beginning, as opposed to just casting too wide of a net and never really catching anything. Mike, maybe you can drop in really quick and just maybe touch on that about, preparing the list for spring, and what kind of things maybe that they wouldn't want on there, and things that could help them be more effective.
Yeah, I mean, I think with our system, what we found is that sometimes people, they're trying to recruit, they're trying to come up with the list, and they spend so much time trying to figure out who they're going to call and playing with all the filters and all the lists. And then once you come up with maybe 500, 1,000, 2,000 names, then it becomes overwhelming. Where do I start? Well, it makes sense to start at the top, right? That makes sense to all of us.
Totally.
A lot of times people start skimming down that list and trying to cherry pick, and then sooner or later, 20, 30 minutes, an hour goes by and you haven't made any phone calls. So I think trying to refine that list as much as possible right from the beginning, so that you have a nice, short, concise list that you can start making calls off of is super important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we spend a lot of time in Q4 preparing for the next year, right? We take all the time and we do those things that you were just talking about. We play with filters. We're looking at people that produce within certain ranges, looking at people that have closed transactions with the office, whatever those filters are that you're adding in there. There's a lot of time that's spent on it, usually towards the end of the year, beginning of the year. And I think that with spring, the time of renewal, and let's clean up some stuff around the house. Let's clean up some of the business stuff too. Taking some time to go back and reevaluate, hey, what's working so far and what isn't. Hopefully you've hit the ground running and you're already doing your recruiting efforts, but let's take a step back and say, okay, of my list, what's working and what's not working. Maybe I'm calling people that are producing within the 5 to 10 million range, and I've been calling people that are co-ops with my office. Well, I'm getting a much greater result from the 5 to 10 million range. So maybe I want to focus more on that in the next quarter versus focusing on those co-ops. Not to say you totally dump any group off your list, but look and see where you're having some of those successes, and really taking that and running with it into Q2 to really maximize your results. I think we all agree that there's a limited amount of time in the day. So what you don't want to do is every day you run that full list and you're looking at those 500 people and you're spending time trying to cherry pick, like Mike said, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do today? And then you end up only having time to make 1 or 2 calls versus, hey, I got some good systems in place. I've taken some time to reevaluate my list. now I'm ready to go. Let's hit the ground running. So 30 minutes, I could make 10 calls versus the two that if I'm not prepared and efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, I agree with that. I think that being prepared for the calls is the number one thing people make a mistake about, because you get in the office, you get set up, you get your phone out, you get your earpiece in, you got your spreadsheets up, so you're 15 minutes in there. Maybe you need to go to the bathroom, and you come back, and now that's been half an hour. And then all of a sudden, you got 45 minutes in, you just started looking at the list, and then somebody walks into your office, and then it's shot for the day. And meanwhile, all you were doing was working on admin to try and get the right people to call. Whereas if you have a system in place where every day you're in and out of there, it's keeping track of who you're calling, keeping in track of who you're following up with, that type of thing. I think if you've got that type of a system, whether it be something that you've developed internally or something you pay for as a subscription, at least you're holding yourself accountable for the quality of the work you're doing. Because that's usually the number one mistake, is people aren't thinking about the end quality of the work they're doing every day. They're just thinking about, okay, I've got to do this, I've got to get up, and I've got to make these calls, and they get into it, and then by the time it's time to start making the calls, they've already run out of time. And that type of outreach is something that people should be doing every day. If I wasn't on the phone every day talking to clients for our company, we wouldn't make any sales, and it's the same with any kind of company. If you're not pushing forward, I think that can be a real problem. If you're not growing, you're shrinking, that old adage. But especially with a recruiting list, if you start calling people and it's outdated and it isn't the kind of information that you want to have or the right type of thing, you're going to waste your time even more, right? And so that's why I think maybe Mike could maybe touch on a little bit more about how OnTask, I know it's a product of Realty Connection that we're all super excited about, but OnTask seems to be able to organize that stuff a lot easier. And maybe Mike can just touch on that briefly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's been one of the best decisions we made. Was on our dashboard, we created a module called priority prospecting. And
I love that.
what we did is, and we took this, this was feedback from our users that said, Mike, I come up with all these lists and I've got 1,000 people in the list and I don't know where to start. I mentioned that earlier. And so all we did is we just took it in a nice bite-sized chunk, 25 people. And if you can focus on 25 people that you've never contacted from the specific list that you want to target. So for example, Tracy mentioned $5 to $10 million producers. Well, if you have that setting, and Brokermetrics does such a great job updating that information for you, somebody might be at 4 million this month, and then next month, now they're at 5 million, and now they're all of a sudden in your target range. And so the priority prospecting module is very simple, one click, and it just gives everybody just 25 people that you've never contacted from that list. That was one of the best decisions that we made. I mean, people now are not as afraid to pick up the phone. They know that all those people, they just can go down and order. These are the 25 people served up for you every day. Pick up the phone, make your call. If you're afraid of the call, send an email, send a text, whatever it is. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's been really important. And thank you, Brokermetrics, for just keeping all of that updated. It makes it super simple for our users.
Yeah, well, let's talk about some of the groups that between our two, I think Mike, you and I work a lot with the data. What are some of the groups that you find are very helpful for recruiters? Production level. I know, I was talking to some people that were trying to grow their luxury business, so they were adding in a luxury filter. Co-op agents. What are some of the ones that you see your recruiters having great success with?
Yeah, so I think everybody loves the co-brokes. The fact that you guys serve up the co-brokes quickly, easily, and they can see the address and see who, which one of the agents they did a deal with. That's definitely probably the most popular feature. But a lot of people tend to search agents that are trending up in their business. I've been seeing that quite often. So for example, those $5 to $10 million producers, like you said, that might be trending up, 20% or more. And so I've seen that as a popular search lately, because you can give a compliment, right? You can give a compliment. And a lot of times what we've been seeing is the biggest open rates are when you put the address of a recent closing. So you can grab the address, you can put, hey, I just saw that you closed 123 Main Street. I see that it closed for 118% of list price, or in some markets maybe 150%. It seems like, I don't know.
Right.
But it closed
well
over the list price. No wonder your business is up 75%. Keep up the good work. Let's stay in touch.
Mhm.
right? Things like that where you can reference that specific data that you guys provide is fantastic. I mean, that's by far the most effective.
That's a
And
good
that
one.
provides, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say there were a couple other ones that I saw as I've been working with some brokers this week. Ones that are down in business, I think that's usually a pretty easy recruiting call because you know that they're struggling a little bit this year compared to last. And there's probably some opportunity. They may not be happy where they are. So that's definitely a good one. But one that I found this week that I thought might be really good would be the ones that are just flat this year compared to last. Because just like ones that have decreased, the ones that are flat, hey, there might be some systems and processes, things that you can help them with that'll really help them grow and get their business into that next level. So I think that's definitely another group that we can put in there as, hey, if the groups that you have, you're not seeing a lot of results, here's some of those ideas that you can regroup and figure out, okay, let me try some other things. So those might be interesting. So Rob, what were your thoughts?
I was just going to say, like, both of these examples and everything we're talking about here really boils down to personalization. That is one of the things, when you're reaching out to people, the more you can personalize that touch and make it about something that's a common ground or about something that's, you've got knowledge about together, especially with a property or recent closing, the co-brokers, that type of thing. I find that makes recruiting more effective. A lot of the times people will hire people overseas to make calls and that type of thing. And that never works out because they don't understand the market. They don't understand what's going on. But if you have the kind of data that you can give to someone who's working for you as a recruiter, and they can become more focused and personalize the messaging and personalize everything that's going on there, it's going to make you look so much better than the other people who are just having robocallers done or that type of thing, or just general outreach and things that are in mass emails and whatnot. Using the data to become more personalized is, I think, really the future of things, and not just sitting there and going, okay, we'll just hit everybody with everything. No, really drive down to make that data count, especially if you're paying for a subscription for it. You should be using it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point.
One thing I want to add, Tracy, just to kind of piggyback on what you're talking about, we created something called easy searches, which are just predetermined criteria. So we took, like the rising stars list, agents that are up, the crash and burn list, agents are down, top, mid, and bottom tier, similar stuff to what's in broker metrics. I do want to add the flat one, right? Maybe somebody that's negative 10% to positive 10%. They're just kind of sitting still. They're not moving forward. They're not moving back. They need a push. But another one of the easy searches that we added that has been pretty popular are just buyer's agents and listing agents. So we define that by buyer's agents are those that have at least 50% more on the buy side versus the sell side. And so we've had a lot of users take advantage of that because they have leads, right? Or they have a lot of listings and they have a lot of buy leads, and they want agents that like to take buyers out, that are really good with working with buyers. And so they'll look for somebody that is consistently closing buyers, and they can give them more buyers. Or maybe they want somebody that doesn't have a lot of buyers and they want to give them some leads so that they can now add buyers to their business. So those two searches that we added have been really popular as well.
Oh, I love that. With the buyers, I think
Awesome.
It's really cool to be able to say also, yeah, we've got buyer leads, but hey, do you want some help growing your listing business? We've got the tools and services, systems in our company that can really help you grow that part of your business. Are you tired of running around in your car all day? You got to list to last, is the old real estate adage that, hey, maybe that's an area where you would like to grow. So I love that. I think that's a fantastic report.
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've been getting into playing with the software over at Pro Broker Agency here with the OnTask software. We love it, as a great CRM to use when you're doing recruiting specifically. I mean, to have a product like that developed in this day and age that actually works and uses the data from Teradata. There we go. These two guys here. It's fantastic. The fact that something this cutting edge actually exists for the real estate industry into a niche that's this specific. It's a wonder that that people aren't using it more, people aren't adapting it more as a product to use every day, because at the end of the day, when we're talking about personalization and effectiveness, those can be two of the most important things that you do need to do in any kind of aspect of business, in any kind of marketing. You're always looking at your target market, and very much so recruiting is marketing in the real estate industry, because you're trying to sell that office on to the brokers in your area. And if you've got a more effective list and you've got more effective systems in place, maybe you hire PBA to do your calls, that type of thing. You've got something going out every day that's quality, and there's an assurance there that you're doing it the right way. I think that gives you a great start for spring. You can spring clean that list, get on the right track, so that summer is going to be easy. You can take a holiday. You've got some recruits in the door. You've got business happening.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought up the software, because I think that was something else that we really wanted to hone in on is, how can software make your business more effective and efficient? How does this, we talked a little bit about it up at the beginning, but really focusing in more on, okay, I don't want to spend 30 minutes trying to go back and refocus what I'm trying to do for the day. If I have to start over every day, that is a big time suck. So what are some of the ways that software can help us be more efficient with our day, and then more effective with our recruiting efforts? And I'll let you two fight over who gets to answer that first.
Mike, you want to go on that one, and then I'll jump in?
You should go first.
Well, okay. Well, I love software. I use it for everything. As a former musician, I learned how to use all the audio softwares when I went to engineering school 20 years ago. And software was always something that I love, because you can take it and adapt it to your own purposes, right? So when we're talking about using it in the real estate industry, a lot of the softwares aren't that complicated. It's not like you're learning AutoCAD or some crazy complicated, computer program that, you have to log into, and it's frightening and scary. Most of the stuff that's made for the real estate industry is very user-friendly, and the user interfaces are even more user-friendly, because they understand that most people in the real estate industry aren't from a tech background. They're professional sales and marketing people, and those people aren't dependent on to always know the most about tech. So I find some of the products that I've seen in the past, aside from OnTask, were kind of too complicated, or maybe just too rough to get into every day, or they, just too much of an uptick to get into. Whereas when we've been looking at OnTask and looking at how easily that can be used every day with the Terradatum subscription to harness the power of both the data and using a software application on a daily basis, it really makes it a no-brainer. Because if you're going to sit there and try and decide what systems to use and things like that, and try and make it your own, and there's a lot of people who have that mentality, like, I can do it in-house, I can do it on my own. And I think we found out there was a press release from Keller Williams recently that they might be backtracking on that. Nothing that there's anything wrong with Keller Williams, but having tech in-house and trying to do it on your own can be a real problem, because it's so expensive and there's so much development involved, and there's so much beta testing and everything like that. I've had years of experience with the software industry. But the thing is if you've got a product that's ready to go, that's been tested, that is being used in the right field, it gives you a start right away, where you're not having to try and adapt a product from a different industry into your industry. It's already made for you. And that's one of the advantages I really liked about OnTask is Mike Mike is a recruiter at heart. He understands recruiting in the real estate industry, which is a very unique gig. I mean, I started doing it in 2008 in West Vancouver for Remax, so I've been doing it for 13 years. It's a very, very unique niche, and for someone to care as much about it as Mike has, to develop a product that actually streamlines what you're going to do on a daily basis with your data and your calls and your emails and your follow-ups, it's really something that you've got to try. And I think they even have a 30-day free trial or something, where you can jump in and get started on that. But again, Mike, maybe you can touch on some things I didn't touch on there, but software, think if you pull out your phone, every single application on there is software. You're dropping into WhatsApp, you're dropping into Instagram, you're dropping into Google Sheets. Any of that stuff has all been software created to make your life easier. And so what's really great I like about, obviously OnTask again, is it's specifically created for recruiting, which to me, as someone who's been involved in the niche for so long, finds exciting that somebody else actually cared about it that much to develop a product that works and works with the data.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm super happy that you said that, because when we started this, we started over 8 years ago. And, I had a recruiting and a real estate background. I've used CRMs. And there's a lot of good systems out there for buying and selling, right? For managing your real estate.
Totally.
There's tons that are very user friendly. And, a lot of companies, a lot of our users, when they come on at first, they tell me what systems they've been using. And a lot of times they're trying to morph that CRM that they've been using for their real estate business into a recruiting software. We made a lot of mistakes along the way early on, because there was no blueprint for us to follow. We were kind of the first to integrate with Brokermetrics the way we have and create a very, very specific recruiting and retention tool. And so over time, yeah, there were times where we've overcomplicated some things, and that's probably my fault. Just because I get these ideas from other CRMs that I've used. But the more, as time's gone on, we've simplified, and now we've created a dashboard that essentially acts as an assistant that takes that Brokermetrics data, the data provided, and kind of serves up the right people to talk to on that day. And a lot of our users, they enjoy, they don't want to make any of the cold calls, and that's okay. And I think that's why, your service is so fantastic, Rob, because a lot of our users I want to call my own agents when they have a listing or closing. I want to call the co-brokes, and I want to call the people that I'm following that I know, because those are all the warmer calls and I can tie it to a transaction. But I don't want to make those 25 calls a day, right? So Rob, maybe you guys make those 25 calls a day and then kind of find those leads for me that I can go and meet with and serve me up an appointment, and then I can deliver because I know my brand has something to offer. And so I think it's just a fantastic trio of tools, I guess you could say, between Brokermetrics and PBA and OnTask.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think that, again, making the calls effective, if you're coming in and wasting a bunch of time getting set up and everything like that to get to your calls, where, obviously we've come up with a package now with OnTask and Terradatum to do your calls. And that's a great little bundle package that people can get. But at the end of the day, that puts everything in one place. So every day we're dropping in to do all this work for you to recruit, where basically you're just handling the appointments as a broker owner. And I think that there are a lot of people who find comfort in that, because at the end of the day, you're running an office, you're a manager, you're a broker owner, you've got so much on your plate every day, starting right at the first thing with the gate. You've got all the things to do with the staff, and then plus the realtors and everything to do to run a business. Having that outreach to go out every day by phone can be difficult. To find that time can be difficult. And I know that's why we're in business, and we've been in business for 10 years is that people don't have the time, and especially if you're going to try and really focus that time into something better and not just have like a giant spreadsheet you're going to call all day, using something like OnTask that works off the back of Terradatum will make everything even more effective. And I'm super pumped about it. It's something that, like, after doing this for so long, to have two partners like you guys that can help us with the things that we need to make sure that our clients have a superior experience, and then therefore your clients have a superior experience, get more value out of the Terradatum subscription, get more value out of the OnTask. I think it's a really great place to start. And I'm super pumped about Sprint. We've got so much going on between the three of us. It's just, it's great times. You never know that there was a pandemic going on. We're all so busy.
Yeah, we just hit that 1 year anniversary. So pretty crazy to think about where we've come in the last 12 months, and how we're all.
There may or may not be vodka in here. No.
Hey, we all have our coping mechanisms.
It's sparkling water. Yeah,
That's fantastic. Well, one more thing I'll hit on, which is spring cleaning your list. So sure. I know we talked about, recruiting, and we're focused in on cleaning up that list for those people that are that you're looking to invite into your office. But don't forget to take a look at the people that are in your own office, and maybe take this spring cleaning time as a few minutes to review what's going on within your office, celebrate some of the success with the agents that are doing well, and look for red flags. If somebody looks like they're down this year compared to last, but the market's been really fantastic, you may want to reach out, see what's going on. How can you help? What are the tools and services within the company? It never hurts to remind your own agents of the value proposition and the things that you bring to the table, because what you don't want to happen is they get phone calls from other brokers asking them about their business and giving them information that you're not providing. So I would say, kind of pulling this back full circle, as you're cleaning up your recruiting list, don't forget to take a look at those agents that are in your office.
The spring retention for sure. Retention is always so key. There's such a high level of attrition in the real estate industry. 100%. Check up on people, see how they're doing. If that's, if you can get in there and use the Terradatum data and stuff like that to to check on production without being intrusive in their business, and then just kind of casually drop them a note. Hey, let's go for lunch. Let's talk about a rebrand plan. Let's talk about your business plan for 2021. Let's get things going. Like, obviously, if we can, the three of us can help you bring the people in, you've got to be able to retain them as well. So let's say you brought in 10 people this year using our systems. We want you to have them all next year. So maybe this would be a good time to start thinking of the systems that you would use to retain. Maybe it is a lunch. Maybe it's a gift card. Maybe it's just a hello, how are you doing? Let's sit down and talk about your business. Let's do some planning. But either way, looking at the data and walking away with that with some good ideas is something that any of us can talk about with any of the people that are on the chat or anytime like that. I think that all three of us have a great resource to be contacted about different things that we do during the day. And we're all very much laser beam focused on business development for the real estate industry. So I think that when you're talking about retention, you've also got some great tools to use, like Tracy's saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've pasted in our chat links to all of our websites. So if you've heard something today, all three of us can help point you in the right direction when it comes to the data with Terradatum, the CRM system with OnTask Realty Connection, and then the phone calls and helping you, and really thinking about leveraging out, like, where are you strong? Where do you need help? And I think leveraging out those phone calls, to have ProBroker make those phone calls for you, I think can just be a game changer. Having someone tee up those conversations for you allows you to focus in on areas that might be more impactful for your business. So yeah, bringing those three tools in together, I think are really, it's a win-win.
That was one of the things Mike and I were talking about. He was in Vegas talking to some brokers there at a convention a little while ago, and we were talking about the calls. And, one of the things that we always look at it, like, if you were going to hire a professional recruiter in your office, you'd have to pay them for more than 4 hours a day. And plus, you'd have to get insurance and health benefits and things like that and make them an employee and whatnot. Whereas if you're using PBA, you pay by the hour, and it's results-based and performance-based and things like that. And so I think that, when we're talking about using the different products that are out there and services, having someone in your corner, like Terradatum, having someone like OnTask is great. But then if you've got those two products and they're just kind of sitting there stagnating and you're not using them to reach out, then that's the time to really look at us or talk to Mike about their calling program and that type of thing. Because one of the things that I find is everyone has it's like a gym membership. And I hate to use that analogy because it gets overused, but you sign up for the calls, you sign up for Terradatum, and you sign up for OnTask, and you let it sit, and you don't do any of the appointments, and you don't do any of the work, and then it's a month later and you're upset at everybody because you didn't do anything. It can happen the same with, like, the gym, where you sign up in the first week, you go every day, and I'm going to lose 20 pounds, and I'm going to get in shape for spring and that type of thing. And it never happens. It's funny. But if you can kind of, outthink that for yourself and think, okay, it isn't the gym. This is my business. This is how I pay my bills. This is a serious thing, and make it integrate with how your daily operations work. Then you'll truly find value in it. Because again, if you're freeing up time that you'd be spending doing the data processing or putting stuff together on a CRM or making the calls and the outreach and the follow-up, if all of that is kind of taken care of, and that opens you up to another hour or two a day to deal with your regular business practices, and maybe you're still selling real estate too, then you've got even more time on your hands to focus on the things that matter to you, while the professionals handle perhaps some things that you might not have time for.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're coming up at the end of our time here. So this has been a great chat. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today. You
Thanks
were
for
a
having
lovely guest.
Yes, thank you, Michael. We'll hopefully have you back again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. I'd love to be back.
Great.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. We've got all of our websites here in the chat. And have a great month.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.